good evening, everyone. My name is Thea Clark, and I am excited to be here with you this evening. I am an elementary instructional technology resource teacher, and I have a colleague of mine, Denise Orndorff, who our paths cross professionally from afar, and now I get to work with her on the same team in Frederick County. So, hello, Denise.
Hi, everybody. Like Thea said, my name is Denise Orndorff, and I am an elementary instructional technology coach for Frederick County and just joined this awesome team this school year. So, learning a lot with them and glad to be with them. And we're going to be sharing some information with you this evening on digital citizenship through the lens of literature. But before we get started, we want to give a shout out to Unison EDU. And Thea's going to change the screen here for us. The webinars that you're watching, this one and some previous ones, are through Unison EDU, which is a nonprofit organization that was started a couple years back. Sorry about that. I had to click the wrong button there. The mission of Unison is to help schools and teachers with training and to get the information out there. And of course, with COVID, we haven't been able to do as many trainings face to face. So we're reaching out with these webinars to spread some free resources to you all. And we hope you get some things out of this digital citizenship webinar tonight. We do want to point out that underneath the resource tab on the website, you will see a link there for the webinars. So our webinar tonight will be housed there along with two past webinars that have already taken place, and we have quite a few coming up. So you can always check back there for the webinars and view them again. So without further ado, let's get started.
So, digital citizenship, of course, is now even more at the forefront with 2020 and the challenges presented through the pandemic. But digital citizenship is something that I became passionate about several years ago. And this quote spoke to me upon doing research. Youth safety on a living internet advocated that educators, in the process of teaching regular subjects, teach the constructive, mindful use of social media enabled by digital citizenship and new media literacy training. So I think it's now more important than ever that digital citizenship is not an option. I was teaching a second grade class today, and a second grader shared with me that she was going to start her own YouTube channel. So that just kind of sent lots of bells and whistles off in my brain that we need to be proactive in giving these kids a toolbox so that they can keep themselves safe and make wise decisions when they are online.
And we do want to tie this to the ISTE standards. For those of you that aren't familiar with them, ISTE has standards set forth for digital citizenship. So this is number 2, where students will recognize the rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of living, learning, and working in an interconnected digital world. And they act and model in ways that are safe, legal, and ethical. So there's a lot of big words in here, a lot of good topics that we need to address with our students. And we chose the ISTE standards one because we have a broadband across the nation tonight that could possibly be watching this, so we didn't want to limit it to just the Virginia standards. So if you're not familiar with the ISTE standards, you may want to take a look at those.
So a little background on how we got here. So I teach in Frederick County, Virginia, and several years ago, we felt the need for to bring digital citizenship instruction to the forefront. So a task force was formed where we started looking at various curriculums that existed. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And we chose Common Sense Media as our curriculum for Frederick County Public Schools. And in 2018, we began the journey of getting ourselves a Common Sense certified school district. And in order to do that, a certain percentage of your schools within the district have to be Common Sense certified. So, over the course of that journey, the lessons were great, but teachers started asking for more. And especially when we started, we chose 3 through 5 to start our school certifications. And my K through 2 teachers were screaming, well, we want to be included in these lessons and resources. And of course, for me, being an elementary teacher, read alouds and children books are near and dear to my heart. So the conversations, we didn't want them to stop with just those common sense lessons. And then, especially since the common sense lessons only reach 3 lessons for K-2, and they wanted more. So we decided we needed to continue those conversations and look at it from an integration standpoint and not as one more thing that teachers needed to find time to fit in.
Thea mentioned integration, and that's going to be the key to all these storybooks that we're sharing with you this evening. And as Thea and I talked and planned, when we teach these books, we usually have a certain concept in mind. But if you read these books, there's lots of different concepts and different ways that you can integrate it into your curriculum. So as we tell you about the books this evening, we're hoping that there'll be some wheels turning and you can be thinking of some ways that you can integrate it into your science, your social studies, your math, your reading lessons, everything you're already doing an awesome job at, and you're just going to tweak it and add a little bit more to it. So without further ado, we're going to dig deep into these books that we keep telling you about. And we are going to switch screens just for a second so you can see us better when we're holding up our books.
So this, for me, turned into a rabbit hole of I found one book and then another and then another. And we have quite an extensive book list that we use with students K-5. So tonight we're just going to highlight a few of them for you. So one of the first ones that we use with kindergarten is Tech the Modern Cave Boy. And the kids really like this book because it's hard for you to see online, but the cover of this is actually cardboard and it doesn't actually look like there's any pages in here. It looks like a tablet. It's even got the home button down here at the bottom for you to press to open it. And when you open Tech, there are actually pages in here, and there's what looks like an iPad password. So the kids are instantly drawn into the look of this book. But the point of this book is to support the whole idea of media balance and well-being, which is a huge underlying theme for all of the common sense lessons, making sure that students know when it's time to unplug and put away those devices. So basically, Tech does not ever want to come out of his cave. He spends all of his time in his cave. In fact, he actually misses the Ice Age because he refuses to come out of his cave, and his friends are sad. And as you're going through this book, you can see the top of the pages. We can see the battery power, our Wi-Fi signal. So the kids are just instantly drawn at something that's familiar to them. And eventually, I'm not going to tell you how, but Tech does come out of his cave. And that is when our pages switch to looking like the typical pages that are in our book. And Tech begins to learn about the world around him. And then, of course, there is a very happy ending for Tech. So, of course, you can do some vocabulary, making predictions with Tech. And then, of course, tying in that whole idea of when we need to unplug and spend some time with our family and friends outside of technology. So, Tech is one that we typically use with kindergarten. And then with first grade, we get into Dot. And Dot is a great book for teaching rhyming words. And the kids' favorite part, Dot is another character who she knows how to do everything on every kind of technology that there is. She can tweet, she can swipe, she can tap. And the kids' favorite page in Dot is because her mom finally tells her that it's time to go outside and play And the kids all laugh at this picture because they think that she looks like a zombie. As she is going outside, her mom tells her she needs to reboot and recharge. And then, of course, Dot realizes that once she's outside, she can tweet and tap and tag and do all of those things with her friends without using technology. So, Dot is another one for teaching multiple meaning words with them. The whole idea of tapping and swiping and tweeting on Twitter and the birds tweeting outside. And of course, all of those other making predictions. And her dog in this story, you can definitely tell how her dog is feeling by looking at his expressions as he goes through the story with Dot when she is plugged and when she is unplugged. So, also noticing the pictures and noticing the page to give us clues about what's happening with the story. Dot is a great book for that. And then moving on up, Blackout is a favorite by John Rocco. And in this story, it takes place in the city. And we typically do this one with third grade. And the story starts out where this little boy wants to play a game, but nobody wants to play. Everybody's busy on their devices. And then suddenly there's a power outage in the entire city and nothing is working. And at first, everybody is really sad about this. Nobody knows what they are going to do. They have no electricity. But this whole idea of the entire city being forced to unplug because of the power outage, everyone comes out of their house and is coming together as a town to enjoy. And then the power comes back on eventually. So you can read Blackout to find out what happens. And there are lots and lots of, if you just start digging through your language arts standards, Blackout is a great book, and you're going to be able to find many connections no matter what standards you're using to teach language arts from.
And for second grade, we've got this book here, but it's just a game where the character in this story is really involved and everything in his life is all about gaming. His mother calls him for dinner, but it's just a game, just one more minute. And as we know, as teachers and educators, if a child's tired, one of the first things we ask them is, "What did you do last night?" "Well, I was playing, something on the Xbox, something on the game." And it goes into he doesn't want to eat because he's playing his game. He won't go outside because of his game. And when I've read this story to my second graders, it was really interesting because they're like, he just needs to go outside for fresh air. Like they were getting it by the end of the book. So this one is But Just a Game. If you're any PE teachers listening, this would be an awesome book for PE teachers to pull in and use with their curriculum also. Third grade, and this is one of my favorite ones. When Charlie McButton lost power. So, how many times, even as adults, we've lost power or the Wi Fi doesn't work in our house and we think it's a major catastrophe? Well, Charlie gets really upset and he starts searching the house, all over the house, trying to find batteries for some of his old devices. And as he's searching for these batteries, he realizes that his little sister's toys has batteries. And if you have a younger brother or sister, you know the rivalry that can be between them. And that starts with the batteries. And he gets in timeout. And I'm not going to give the whole story away. I'm just going to show the last page because this is a really sweet ending to this book with a brother and a sister. But I think this book not only ties in really well with technology, but it also builds into relationships and their emotional well-being, and that you don't have to get upset and you don't have to get angry when things aren't working. There's other options out there. So that's Charlie McButton Lost Power.
We all know the feeling of kids begging for batteries for those controllers. That's a good one. So that's kind of some of the books that we have for the theme of media balance and well-being. And then another theme, of course, is making themselves safe. I always tell my students that their job as a digital citizen is to keep themselves safe, be responsible, and be respectful of others when they are online. So, the whole idea of staying safe is another book that we use with second grade. And this was one of the first books that I found on my journey of searching for books, chicken clicking. And this one, a lot of our students in Frederick County can relate to because it takes place on a farm. So if you've got kids who have that experience or not, this would be a great book to introduce to them what it's like on a farm. But little Chick sneaks into the farmer's office when he's sleeping, and she starts ordering things online, and she orders lots and lots and lots of things online, and she orders lots of things for all the animals on the farm. And then, as it turns out, she starts to feel lonely because she sent all of the other animals on the farm on all of these great trips. The bulls go to Spain, and so she's lonely. So she thinks, I'm going to take a selfie with the new camera that she bought for herself online, and she posts it to a website, and she makes a friend. And I will share with you the ending of this book because it causes lots of huge gasps when the students when you get to this part of the end of the book. But she meets a friend online, and she agrees to go to the park and meet that friend. And she doesn't tell anybody that she's going. And when she gets there, this is who she's greeted by. So this one definitely starts those conversations about we have to be careful about what we're posting online. And then, of course, we never ever make friends with people who we don't know in real life because they never know who they're really going to meet. So this one, we usually do a lot of cause and effect. We start out by the farmer not having a password on his computer. And then we talk about, so how is Chick feeling? And then that cause and effect of her taking a picture of herself and then posting it online and making that friend. And we never really know. So this is a good place for kids to make predictions because this is literally the last page of the book. So lots of the students will say, well, we're pretty sure she got eaten because he's got a pot and some salt and pepper there. But we don't really know for sure. So this was one of the first books that is near and dear to my heart because it was one of the first ones that started this journey.
And that was one of our first books that I had read also. And the fun part about that story is you can actually have a really cool writing prompt at the end as to how the kids would rewrite the end of the story or what's going to happen next when you're trying to tie it into a writing lesson. But that's an awesome book, and the kids love that book. The book I'm going to share with you is called Once Upon a Time Online. And this is actually a spinoff of fairy tales. And there's a lot of different fairy tales in this book. Rapunzel is in there, the three little pigs, the big bad wolf. Basically, a laptop falls down from the sky. And once they figure out what the laptop can do, Cinderella goes to town and she orders, everything she needs for the ball. She doesn't need a fairy godmother. She's an online shopper. Little Red Riding Hood decides she needs a new cloak and she needs a phone. And then the little pigs get in there and they start buying what they need, the sticks and the bricks. And then, of course, the big bad wolf has to come along and he wants to be gaming. So he steals it and he's doing all the gaming. And as we know, when you purchase things online, after they arrive, you get a very, very long bill. And then the fairy godmother comes when Cinderella receives the bill. And the fairy godmother explains to them what they should and shouldn't do online. And in the end, the fairy godmother is able to put everything right and everybody learns how to be safe online. I really like this book for a reader's theater. If you ever do reader's theater with your kids, they can each pick one of the characters and take turns in the book with this one. But this book covers a lot of different topics: the shopping, the gaming. Rapunzel gets a tablet, so she's trying to talk to Prince Charming. There's a lot of good information in this book. So that one is Once Upon a Time Online.
Denise and I had today when we were working on this presentation, when we got to that book, we just kept, oh my gosh, there's just so much that you can do with just that one book. So if you don't have a lot of time, that is a good one. And then the last theme that we are going to talk about is that whole idea of your digital footprint, which is huge. Getting them to realize, especially it's kind of hard because it's something that they can't really see, but getting them to realize that it's there. And we want them to have a digital footprint that's full of great positive things. So one of my favorites that I use with third graders is Nerdy Birdie Tweets. And so some of you may be familiar with the Nerdy Birdie books. And Nerdy Birdie and Vulture are best friends and they do everything together. One difference they have, though, is Nerdy Birdie loves being online and gaming, and Vulture, not so much. So one day, and of course, Nerdy Birdie and Vulture eat very different things. Nerdy Birdie takes a picture of Vulture eating his lunch and he says, ew, he eats dead things. Well, Vulture finds this and he is not happy that a picture of him was tweeted without permission, and it was a picture of him that he wasn't really flattered by. So some of us may have been there, that someone posted a picture of us we weren't pleased with. So Nerdy Birdie loses his friend. And at first he thinks it's okay because he reaches out to all of his online friends. And these friends that he thought he had online turn out to say, well, what do you want me to do about it? I live in Iceland. So all of these friends he had made really turn out to not really be true friends. So in the end, this one, of course, does have another happy ending. But this one is a great one to start out the writing prompts, even if you want them to do a writing prompt about digital citizenship and what should you do if you want to post a picture of someone online, and tying in that whole idea of, even though Vulture didn't post that picture of himself on Tweetster, it became part of his digital footprint too. So this is a great book to begin to have those conversations. Nerdy Birdie Tweets.
And then the last book we want to share, and this is one I think Thea and I both enjoy using in the classroom, is called The Technology Tale. So instead of talking about a digital footprint, we're going to be talking about a digital tale. And in this story, and this sort of goes back to what Thea was saying about the children that wanted their own YouTube account. This is one that I pulled out about 2 weeks ago because a child wanted a YouTube account, and we wanted to make sure that they were safe and knew what they were doing for a YouTube account. But in this storybook here, the little girl learns about everything that follows you around that you do when you're online. So if it's something nice, it shows up as a little present on your tail there. But sometimes, like Thea just said, they post pictures or you say things that's not so nice. That's going to cause a hurt, so they can put a Band-Aid on the tail. And some things we just can't take back, like our private information. And when we share that, that puts a hole in our tail. And then we talk to the kids about how this tail, and I really like this picture here. I don't know if you can see it or not. This is her tail, and she's actually in for a little interview. And even though the tail is imaginary, the employer can go in and see or hear what this person's done online. So that invisible tail, no matter what age you are, when you start online, your tail starts. And you probably want to see a lot of gifts on your tails and not holes or Band-Aids. And so we've actually purchased crepe paper or ribbon and had kids create the tails and talked about things that would be a boo-boo and they would get a Band-Aid or a hole or a gift. Just a really good little book. And I know a lot of us have seen this one before, where they put it on their hands and you use the word think, is it true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind? So it goes back to that digital citizenship that we're always talking about and trying to get them to be safe online. Because I think we all can agree if we can reach them now in elementary school, it's going to be a lot easier as they get older and understand what's following them and what they need to be doing when they're online.
And I love that book too because when we usually do that one with upper elementary, and when you have them, when we give them that cray paper and we tell them that you have to poke a hole in your tail, they get very stressed about that because they're like, no, I don't want a hole in my tail. And so then they'll try and just poke this microscopic pencil hole in their tail because that book really hits home for them. And they're like, well, if this is going to be my tail, I do not want a hole in it. So that one is a lot of fun.
Or they try to put the Band-Aid on the hole, and
Yes,
after you've given out your personal information, you can't take it
it's too
back.
late. You can't take it
Yeah.
back, so you can't cover it.
And they
That's
don't understand why a Band-Aid can't fix everything. So, all
yes.
right. We're gonna go back. We're gonna show you our presentation again here to wrap up here. So when we've talked about all of this, it's about integration. Start small. We on this screen here, and we put the link for this in the chat earlier, and we'll repeat it before we leave today. There's the list here of the digital citizenship books for you to look at. There's more than the ones we just showed you this evening. But pick a book and think about how can you integrate it into your language arts and your digital citizenship. It doesn't have to be anything big and elaborate. Start small. Start with one small activity and let it grow, glow, and grow from there. So, Thea, what would you like to wrap up with?
Yeah, I would just say the same thing. Like, just start small, and just pick one. Just pick one and get started, and have those conversations. And again, if you're looking for more resources, Common Sense Media is a great place to start. But like Denise shared there, the book list that you can click on when you access the presentation, the book list will give you even more ideas and provides a brief summary of each of those books. So we hope that you enjoyed a little bit of hearing about some of our favorite books. Our contact information is there for us. So please feel free to reach out and ask questions and ask for ideas. And please share what you're doing with these books. I love that when teachers email me back and say, look at this great thing that we did with our students. So please share with us the great things that you're doing. And I'd also like to give a plug to Unison EDU for giving us this opportunity. And please check us out and look at the great resources. And again, on the website, all of our webinars as we get rolling will be posted there.
Thea, can you post the Unison site back up one more time? Do you still have the availability to throw that one up?
I do.
Okay.
And
we really hope you guys go ahead.
I put the exit ticket, please, if you're here watching, I put the exit ticket in the chat. Okay, so again, unisonedu.org, and at the top there's resources, and there are webinars will be posted under that section, and you can also visit to learn more about the mission and vision for what Unison EDU is trying to do for educators everywhere.
And we encourage you to follow Unison on Twitter and on our Facebook page. So we thank you guys for your time this evening. We hope you survive the next couple weeks with your students. And when winter break comes, you guys can sit back and relax a little bit. So we thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.